You know when you're on the highway and you just see that endless stream of trucks rolling by? We see them all the time, right? But behind every single one is this massive, almost invisible industry that is, and I'm not exaggerating, the lifeblood of our economy. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what really keeps this country moving.
Because that truck, it's so much more than just a vehicle. It's the last crucial link in a gigantic supply chain that gets food to our grocery stores and, well, pretty much everything else to our local shops. It's basically a rolling piece of our national infrastructure, and its health really does affect every single one of us.
So, just how big are we talking? Well, every single year, the Canadian trucking industry generates over $65 billion in revenue. That is a massive, massive piece of our entire economic pie.
And it's not just about the money. It's about people. The industry supports over 400,000 direct jobs across the country. And get this, more than 300,000 of those are the drivers themselves, the folks actually behind the wheel.
Now this next number, this one is absolutely staggering. A full 90% of all consumer products and food here in Canada get moved by trucks. Just let that sink in for a second. Almost everything you buy, you eat, you use, at some point, it was on a truck.
So yeah, calling this industry Canada's economic engine isn't just a catchy phrase. It's the absolute truth. It's the system that connects every single part of our economy.
I love this analogy. It's like the country's circulatory system. It's pumping essential goods to every single corner, every day. You know, from the farm to the factory, from the shipping port straight to your front door. It just makes sure our complex economy can actually work.
But here's the thing. If this system is so vital, what happens when it starts to slow down? Well, it turns out there's a combination of really serious challenges that are slamming the brakes on the whole industry.
And now we're going to look at some of those major pressures on the system. And believe me, these are not just little bumps in the road. We're talking about deep, systemic problems that are threatening the stability of our entire supply chain.
The Canadian Trucking Alliance points to a whole bunch of major headwinds. We've got a chronic shortage of drivers, shady tax schemes creating an unfair playing field, and really intense competition from the US that's way tougher because their tax laws are different. Throw in some outdated safety rules and crumbling infrastructure, and you have, basically, a perfect storm.
Let's just zoom in on one of these for a second, a scheme they call Driver Inc. Basically, it's where trucking companies pretend their employee drivers are independent businesses. Why? So they can dodge paying proper taxes and things like Canada Pension Plan and employment insurance. The CTA figures this little trick could be costing the government over $1 billion a year in lost tax revenue. $1 billion.
Then you've got that competition with the US. See, American carriers have this thing called bonus depreciation, which lets them write off the cost of a brand new truck in half the time it takes a Canadian company. That gives them way more cash to reinvest, and it makes it incredibly difficult for Canadian fleets to stay competitive. Safety regulations are another huge problem. Just look at these top violations for driver hours. Nearly half of them are just for not having a logbook at all. Why? Because so many still use these old-school paper logs, which are super easy to fake or just, lose. This isn't just a safety risk with tired drivers on the road. It gives the companies that don't play by the rules a totally unfair advantage. Okay, so these systemic problems, they're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They have very real, incredibly high-stakes consequences for the men and women actually behind the wheel, especially those independent owner-operators. This quote, it really says it all. For a small business owner who has poured every penny they have into their truck, a major mechanical failure isn't just a bad day. It's a potential death sentence for their entire business.
And we're not talking about a small repair bill here. Industry lenders say a major repair that's big enough to need financing, that usually starts at a minimum of $25,000. For an owner-operator, that one bill can absolutely end their business. And you can just see how quickly this can spiral out of control. First, bam, a catastrophic breakdown. That one massive bill instantly wipes out every dollar in savings. Then, while the truck is sitting in the shop, there's zero income coming in. And just like that, with no working truck and no money to fix it, the business is gone.
So with all these pressures, what's the fix? Well, the industry isn't just sitting around pointing out problems. They're actually proposing some very concrete solutions that are designed to last for the long haul.
The Canadian Trucking Alliance has laid out some really clear fixes. To fight the logbook violations, make electronic logging devices mandatory. To help with the driver shortage, streamline the temporary foreign worker program. For that Driver Inc. tax scheme, Get the Canada Revenue Agency and other government bodies to actually step up enforcement. And to compete with the US, create fairer tax rules for buying equipment.
You know, a lot of this just boils down to modernization. By simply embracing proven tech like electronic logs, we can boost safety, make sure everyone is actually following the rules, and create a truly level playing field where the honest, compliant companies can actually succeed.
Now, you might be thinking this is all, industry inside baseball. But trust me, the health of Canada's trucking industry has a very, very direct impact on your everyday life.
Think about it. When you have fewer drivers on the road, older trucks that break down more, and a supply chain that is constantly under pressure, well, that creates a pretty predictable chain reaction for the rest of us.
And here's the bottom line. It all leads to delays in getting the stuff you want, and ultimately, higher prices for literally everything you buy. The stability of our supply chain directly hits your wallet and the cost of living.
So it really leaves us all with a pretty critical question to think about. Our demand for goods, it just keeps growing. We want more stuff, and we want it delivered faster than ever. But with an industry that's facing all these huge challenges, you have to wonder, who is going to be there to drive our future?